everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Josh. Today's video I think is going to be a pretty quick one. I say that, it never ends up being, we'll see. Today we're doing this video actually for two reasons. The first of which is I want to test out some new things here in my setup to make sure that everything looks good before I tackle a very grand unveiling of another new watch, and I want that to be absolutely perfect. So I thought I would film this video here, test everything out, make sure it looks good. And so today we are taking a look at this beautiful little watch, which needs no introduction. This is the absolutely beautiful Casio G-Shock Full Metal Square in gold. Now, some of you guys are probably wondering why I pulled the trigger on this, because as you may know, I already have the silver version here, which I bought early last year in 2020, and I have a video on this if you want to know the details of this guy. And I debated for a while if having these two would be redundant, but what I'm going to try to do today is explain to you why I don't think they are, and why specifically I thought the gold for me was going to be absolutely perfect, and thus why I pulled the trigger on it. As you may know, I got my silver square in early 2020, just as we were heading into summer, just as, well, lockdown was starting, so we weren't really heading into anything, but I thought it would be the perfect complement to all the casual and street style clothes that I tend to wear during the summer, and it definitely fit the bill for those times when something fancier just felt a little bit out of place. Especially last year with everything that was going on with COVID and lockdown and, sanitizing and Lysoling and all that sort of thing. There were a lot of times that I didn't pull out any of my more expensive watches because I didn't want to be wiping those down with alcohol or bleach or, whatever else you were using to clean. And so, the G-Shock is the original streetwear watch, and no matter what you do within that aesthetic, you really just can't go wrong. So it really fit the bill for last year and everything that was going on. But during the summer, again, I like to go all in on color. I love florals, I love color blocks, I love solids with logos, all that fun stuff, and I generally pair them with, kind of fun or over-the-top sneakers as well. Even when I'm doing a nautical or preppy kind of thing, I still want to add a little bit of that Samantha Jones magic so that it's not too Charlotte York, and you'll understand if you know, if you get that reference. And when you start looking at all these ensembles that I was putting together, the silver feels a little bit safe. It feels a little bit bland, even boring, especially if you don't see the face of the watch and you just see the back or the clasp or whatever. It might as well just be some accountant's cheap little Casio, and I say that because my dad is an accountant who only wears cheap little Casios. So the way I saw it, with what I wear, with my style, gold was really the way to go, and I absolutely love it, you guys. I know this is probably over the top. I know some of you are probably gagging right now, and I do apologize for that, but I love it so much, and I cannot wait. I can't wait for the weather to warm up so I can break it out, because this, in my opinion, is the ultimate street style watch. Again, even more than that chromed out, blinged out silver one. And on top of that, this is one of those rare watches that's both incredibly affordable and incredibly well respected by even the most affluent watch aficionado. And so, in some ways, I feel like this is a really nice substitute for, again, when I don't want to be wearing out a more expensive watch because I'm going to have to spray it down with Lysol or whatever it might be. And by the way, you guys, something to know about this gold in particular, for those of you who are maybe a little bit skittish about super blingy, full gold watches, things like that, I actually find that either as a result of the brushed finish, or maybe it's the gold coating itself, I'm not really sure yet, this gold somehow comes out far more muted in real life than the pictures would have you suggest, and it definitely takes on a very different character than many other full gold watches out there. Those of you who have been with me here will know that I also occasionally will pull out my all gold Seiko Turtle, and you can maybe see here, I'm hoping you can see here on camera, that the G-Shock isn't as yellow. It's just not as bright. It almost takes on a bronzy character, which I really, really like, because I think it tones down the gaudiness and maybe even ups the inherently vintage nature of the 5000 Square. And all of that comes together to create, in my opinion, a very tasteful package that's going to be wearable for a lot of different people. So if you are on the fence about this guy and you just haven't seen it in person, I'd highly recommend ordering it from someplace you can return it if you still don't like it. But I think in person it presents very, very differently than it does in pictures and a lot of the really blingy advertisements that you see of this watch. Now, I said that the silver, when I got that one, that was the ultimate G-Shock. But this one in particular, because of the gold, because of the way it's more subdued, because of its just presence and its street style cred, this to me is the ultimate G-Shock, and I really think this is my favorite G-Shock. Now, with all that said, there are a couple of things I don't like. In general, I always prefer dark on light displays when it comes to G-Shocks, meaning that I prefer dark numerals on a light display, especially on the squares where it's your primary way of telling time. I find that the light on dark like we have here, which is to say that the numbers are light and the background is dark, tends to be harder to read at a glance, both in direct light and in low light conditions. In the latter, the LED backlight definitely helps, but you have to press a button to trigger that, and so it's an additional step to just glance down and check the time. And I wish that what they'd done was kept the display the same as what was on the limited edition fully polished version of that watch, and I really, really like that. I wish they had followed it through to this version because I think that is so much easier to read. I also waffle back and forth on whether I prefer the full polished or the brush finish that we have here. I haven't seen that limited edition version in person, so I can't make a definitive judgment there. I prefer the full polish just because it is so chromed, it is so blingy, but then at the same time, like, I do think that could be too blingy, and so in some ways I really like the brushed finish here. And I think what it comes down to is that each of the models of this watch, so that full polished gold versus the brushed gold versus the silver versus the darker colors and the titanium colors, are all aimed at very different people at very different scenarios and very different styles. Which brings me to my last point about this guy, which is that although these two are so similar, the two I own, the gold and the silver, I don't think that they're redundant in any way. And let me explain that. Although I do find, again, that dark display to be much harder to read at a glance, aesthetically, I think it really works within the overall design here. This watch is so dramatic, and I just love how the dark face kind of fades back and allows the bronze or gold case to take center stage and shine. You know, I just imagine some modern chiseled man wearing this in a very casual way with something like a blazer over a fitted tee and loafers without socks, and he's sitting in some softly lit tavern or blues bar, and he's got this guy glittering on his wrist with maybe a couple gold bracelets stacked on top, something like that. Now, obviously, that's not me, but I mean, on the right guy, that would be just such BDE, and go Google that if you don't know what BDE is. That's kind of how I imagine this watch being worn. Meanwhile, the silver, on the other hand, to me is all about practicality. Here we have that easy-to-read dark numeral on a light background display. We have a robust silver case that no doubt will stand up to anything and everything. Again, because this does not have any color coding applied over top, I imagine that you could probably drag this thing against a concrete wall and you wouldn't have any serious issues. You're going to get scratching and things like that, but you're not going to have any color treatment or any color bleed or fade or anything like that. And because of its much more serious appearance, I think this is going to be my go-to guy for anything from time zone hopping travel to any kind of rough and ready adventure. You know, take this hiking, camping, swimming, whatever and wherever, and I don't think it would really look or feel out of place. This is the same kind of environment I would take a regular G-Shock to, so why shouldn't I take the silver one? And so, at least in my head, when I start thinking about those scenarios of where I would wear them, how I would style them, and how I just kind of see them fitting into my life, I don't think that they're redundant because I couldn't imagine swapping the gold for the silver or vice versa. And so if we go back to the tavern example with the gentleman with the BDE, I don't really see you swapping in the silver for the gold and having the same overall effect. I think it's got to be gold in that situation, and vice versa. I don't really see you taking a gold one camping. So I think that they filled two totally different roles and spaces in my watch box and will for others as well. And so I think for me at least, they're both definitely here to stay. And if you really, really like, if you've already got one, for example, if you've got the silver, you might be looking at the gold or vice versa. I really think that you can have both and wear them in very different scenarios if it fits your lifestyle. So that's all I had for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching another video and for taking part in my little screen test of my new props here. I think they work well. I can't wait to use them to show you guys the absolutely fabulous new addition to the family that I've got right over here. I'll flash it up really quick here. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm not even going to get into it because if I start talking about this, we'll be here for another hour. So anyway, that is another story for another day. I will do a video on it. I've got big plans for that watch. So I would highly recommend subscribing and turning on notifications so you'll be the first to know when all those plans go live. With that, guys, as always, leave any comments and questions downstairs. I hope you all are staying healthy, staying safe, having a wonderful 2021, and we will talk again real soon. Thanks for watching and take care.